Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Tax Matters. With each passing day, May 29th, the handover date inches closer. Last episode, we began a series on setting an agenda for the incoming president. We have spoken to Nigerians from various walks of life. We are doing this to expand the frontiers of tax administration in Nigeria and to ensure that revenue from taxes become the mainstay of the Nigerian economy. We spoke to Mr. Adesina Adedayo, the president of the CITN. Sir, the elections have come and gone, and a new administration will come in on May 29th. Now, looking at where we are and where we are heading to, a lot is expected. So tell us, what do you really expect from the incoming administration? Please set an agenda for Mr. President.
To set an agenda for Mr. President, the first thing I want to do is that, one, issue of tax policy should be harmonized and made a national issue. It should be embraced by all the states, and the issue of capacity building should equally be encouraged. You cannot build a system if the people are ignorant about the system. That's very important. And for us to be educated about the system, we need to focus on the educational part of it. That's very critical. At secondary level, at tertiary level, at even market women level, they must understand tax. We are making progress in that area, but we need to make fast progress, if you ask me. Then secondly, we need to actually start talking about institutional strengthening. We need to strengthen institutions. When institutions are weak, development cannot be guaranteed. That's very important. Then structurally as a country, we need to look at all the various issues of our tax system. Which particular area are we going to be more efficient if we're able to centralize? Which one do we need to decentralize? These are areas we need to have a conversation around. So if you ask me to set it in terms of a 1, 2, 3 agenda, it is critically important here. Now, the incoming administration should focus on tax education, should focus on infrastructural development, and then they should equally focus on institutional strengthening. They should strengthen the institution that has to do with the tax system, because if we are not strong, there is no way we'll be able to convince people. And then finally, development must be visible. It must not be politicized. It must be things people can see and relate to it. That's what I can say we need to focus on.
Sir, the elections have come and gone, and a new administration will be coming in on May 29th. Now, what advice do you have for the incoming administration in the area of taxation?
Well, in every Western world or in every developing country, you always have people pay tax. But in some places, some are more happier paying tax than others. So when I pay tax and I see that my tax is being utilized, of course I will always be happy to pay. But in situations where the people are not seeing what they are paying the tax for, then the government should not be so pertinent about tax and all of that. So what the advice I have for them is they should please use our taxes judiciously. When we see the taxes being used judiciously, we will definitely be happy. We're more than happy to pay. It's just like the service power service providers giving us, if they do, and I'm not buying fuel, I buy fuel for like 8,000 to 10,000 monthly. But if I pay that without the noise and without all of the servicing and all of that, I'll be more than willing to even pay more than that.
In the area of taxation, it's just that they should be lenient with people, so that the tax people are paying will not be too much on their salary. Like in the area of vehicle tax, this vehicle license, insurance and so on and so forth, those money, they are just too much. Can you imagine the insurance on vehicle from 5,000 to 15,000 naira? That will impact more on the salary of the salary earners. So they should be lenient. They should just come down on the tax that people will be paying.
When you talk of taxation, that's the major revenue area for the government. But in terms of individual, the tax should be made simple and conducive for people. The income of these days is so meager that even for people to live comfortably is very difficult. The tax should be made in a way that people will not be overburdened, so that living conditions will at least be improved somehow. By the time you tax, by the time, though there are laws guiding taxation of a personal income, but it can still be improved upon to ensure that the living condition is improved.
For this next set of respondents, President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu is well prepared for the job at hand.
Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a man of intelligent intellectual, and he knows much about tax. When it comes to tax, anything has to do with tax, he's good in that field already. He knows what tax is all about. Not all that have opportunity to be in that seat really knows how to manage tax, how to utilize tax, how to generate tax. But in his own area, as a person, he knows much. He has the idea, he has the knowledge already, and I believe he will make the issue of taxation in Nigeria turns around to better.
In the area of taxation, see, he has been doing it before. He knows what he's going to do. He's going to do the best.
When they deduct tax, we are seeing what they've done with it all around. So at least it shows that they've managed taxes well.
We're supposed to see the tax working for us, which I believe the new administration are going to work towards that too.
Tax revenue must be put to good use. Taxpayers' money must work. And believers, so much is going on across the country. Our crew recently went on a tour of the Lagos University Teaching Hospital in Idi-Araba, Lagos, and what we saw was mind-boggling.
My name is Macaulay Elizabeth Omobolanle. Yes, it's my first delivery. I chose Luz because I feel they are specialists for every needs, every health needs, and providing that I'm going for O&G and all of that, so I feel like I can trust the hands that are there. There's a doctor for every need. When we come for antenatals, they take our vitals, the nurses, they attend to us, they take our vitals, they check the blood pressure, everything needed, the routine vitals. Then we see our doctors, and they place us on regular visits. And if there is need for extra monitoring, either they admit you or they consider that okay, you have to stay back. So I feel like they know what they are doing, and you can tally that kind of experience with a private hospital that they are paying so much. So I feel I enjoyed the experience.
The Lagos University Teaching Hospital was established in 1962 as the medical training arm of the University of Lagos, established by an act of the Federal Parliament. Over the years, LUTH has grown alongside the College of Medicine, University of Lagos, as a center of excellence for the training of doctors, nurses, pharmacists, radiographers, and many more. The Lagos University Teaching Hospital is an all-round fully specialized tertiary institution. The O&G facility is indeed a world-class facility.
This is the Liberward Stroke Neonatal Unit Complex. It was built about 40 years ago, but totally renovated 100% by the federal government of Nigeria. We have the Liberward Complex to my immediate right, and to my back is the neonatal complex. Mother and baby, they're interwoven. You deliver the baby, you hand over to the pediatricians. In the old Liberward Theatre, we had 2 theatres, but with the recent renovation, it's been increased to 4 theatres, which gives us more space and time to operate. We have the 14 private delivery suites, all in suites, delivery rooms, 2 HDU, that's high density units for critically ill pregnant women. And across all the way down to my left, to my back, is the neonatal unit, where you put the premature babies, or very sick babies that cannot go to the wards with their mothers. They are here, and they come from the wards to see them. So that's what this, in summary, that's what this place is all about. 100% fully funded, renovated by the federal government of Nigeria. Right now, what you have here is world class. Can have it better than this. And to make it sweeter, 24 hours light. What else do you want? Well, compared to what their experience was before, and now they're more impressed. They're impressed and they're happy. It's a clean environment. It's like you're in a hotel, and that gives you a nice bathing experience. Coming to Nigeria to have your bath here in Nigeria, So it's a totally different experience, worthwhile. And that in itself advertises itself. Oh, have you gone to the new youth labor ward? That's where it should be. And that's all thanks to the federal government of Nigeria. Everything here is new. The beds, the seats, brand new refrigerators, brand new ACs, TV, everything here is new. Microwave is new. The mattress is new. So what do you expect from them? They'll be very happy. Yeah, the turnout is increasing every day, every week, every month, because the news is filtering out that, oh, this has renovated its labor ward from the old. When you have a building not renovated for 40 years, you can imagine. So that's what happened to us. But now that it's been renovated, the news is spreading like wildfire. So we're the old glory is coming back. That's what we have now. And we're happy with the news we are hearing. This is for the public. It is the cheapest world-class service you can get at the cheapest price. It's a public hospital. You can't charge like private facilities. If you have a private facility with the kind of facilities we have here, you'll be paying serious money. But it's a private, you'll be surprised, delivery is 25,000 naira, normal delivery. So that's why it's a public facility. So that's cheap. And there's no private hospital in Lagos that can get delivery free for 25,000 naira. It doesn't work out that way.
Looking at the payments, it's considerable. Because if we're going to be getting that same value in the so-called private hospitals, we'll have to pay more. And the payments we've made so far is still reasonable, and we're getting value. At least we're meeting doctors that are treating us, checking on every time, checking on us every time, and it looks good. So I feel the funding to cater for all the facilities in the hospital, I also believe it's from our tax, added to the money we paid. Because directly or indirectly, we pay tax. All civil servants pay tax. And even people that are not civil servants, from buying and selling and all of that, we pay our taxes directly.
This is taxpayers' money in action for the good of the people.
We as an institution, we are very grateful to our government. We've benefited immensely from taxpayers' money, and particularly in the last 4-8 years. And I sincerely hope that if there's consistency, the new government that is coming, I have no doubt in my mind that they are going to continue. If we continue along that trajectory, Nigeria is going to be better for it.
Surely taxpayers' money is at work. What has happened and is happening at Luth is happening all over the country. In the wake of the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, the federal government of Nigeria took deliberate steps to strengthen all medical facilities under its control. 52 federal medical centers and teaching hospitals were each given a whopping sum of 950 million naira for refurbishment, rehabilitation, and construction of intensive care units, oncology facilities, pediatric surgical theaters, among others. Still on setting an agenda for the incoming president, the elections have come and gone, and a new administration will come in on May 29th. What advice do you have for the incoming administration in the area of taxation? In other words, we'd like you to set an agenda for Mr. President.
Dear Mr. President, I can only wish you the best in taking over the finances of Nigeria. It's not going to be an easy road, but I think the promise is there are indeed people who are capable of taking the nation forward and supporting the president's agenda. But one of the key things is, like I said, first to understand the problems, and some of them we've articulated here. But we definitely should continue that tradition of always reviewing the laws. I've been fortunate to be part of the process where, we're discussing the laws that need to be changed and the amendments to be made. Of course, those can be improved. But one of the things I'd like to see is more stakeholder representation, where we see businesses directly connected with the taxes that are being collected. We must understand the businesses that are generating the profits on which those taxes would be applied. And in doing so, we will then be able to draft the proper laws that will give rise to the tax revenues that we want to collect. We must look at the collection system. What is the landscape for collection? In some cases, we do have that it's very crude, and we're only collecting the taxes manually and not also mining the data that we have collected. So very important that we're deploying the right technology across board and that they all speak to each other so that at every different level, even though we have different agencies, it's harmonized at that level. One thing we also must start to look at is think to the future. What are some of the things that other nations are doing that we can also learn from and leapfrog on? So very important. I gave an example around green taxes and the evolutions that we're seeing. The US very recently enacted the Green Incentives Act. We also see that the EU has a Fit for 55 model that's really embracing changes when it comes to even the way you package your goods and the kind of goods you import into the jurisdiction. It's something Nigeria also needs to look at. We must look at also an enabling business environment. If you want to improve your taxes, businesses must grow. For businesses to thrive, they must have the right capital that will push them forward. FDI has reduced significantly in Nigeria. I don't think we've really seen it, in the levels that we should. And if you look at the oil and gas sector as an example, we had a deadlock for a number of years because we hadn't passed the petroleum industry bill. Investments stayed back. It wasn't a good time for us to push investments because there was uncertainty around the legal regime. And so it's very important that we have conducive business environments. What businessmen will be looking at is I can get my returns back, I can get my capital back, I can get my profit back. And so the next thing will then be what are the monetary policies that we have? When we look at the issue that we suffered with foreign exchange, what businessman will want to bring his money here so that immediately it's already devalued from day one? So we need to think about how we ensure that there's no parallel market for foreign exchange. We need to collapse those two. We need to also look at what's causing also the taxes that we collect to very easily dissipate. And some of those examples are with subsidies. Those things are eating into the revenues that we generate, and they would not leave enough for us to even pay back on the debts that we have. So very important that we look at that as well. And I can go on and on, but I think those will be the top things that the president needs to tackle.
There is no taxation without a vibrant economy. It is how do we unlock value from our economy. You tax the wealth of the people, you tax the income of people. So you need to stimulate the economy to get more wealth and get more for people to get more income. Government can do this by looking at how they monetize and leverage their assets. One of the assets that has to be a matter of priority for the government is oil and gas. And the reason for that is because if we do not monetize it, it could become useless for us very soon with the energy transition and the net zero commitments we are seeing across the world. So we need to concession our oil and gas assets and earn immediate signature bonuses from those oil and gas assets, which government can put into use rather than squeezing, the taxpayers more. We also need to look at, so that is crude. We also need to look at gas. It is said that Nigeria is more of a gas economy than oil economy. Now, why don't we go into more joint ventures like we have with the Nigeria LNG? Make those investment commitments, bring in the international oil companies, and monetize our gas assets. How many times? So during COVID, when states were having problems with funding, it was the dividends from NLNG that bailed, the government out. And NLNG doesn't just pay dividends; they also pay corporate income tax as well, and they also have several suppliers that rely on them for their economy. So we need to monetize gas. The third thing we need to also look at is our human resource. We have a high unemployment rate, but we have a high educational system. And one of the advantages with us is that we speak English as well. We speak English and we speak English well. So we can monetize our human resources. Nigeria needs to become an outsourcing hub. where you can have your call centers, you can have your software developers, you can have your paralegal system, support infrastructure for global law firms, and that will earn us, all these things I've spoken would earn us, the expected effects, and would also enhance our economy and deal with the issue of unemployment. Then we can begin to talk about tax. Someone that hasn't eaten, what are you taxing?
There you are. Agenda for the incoming president on taxation. We conclude this episode with the story of the meeting between Nigeria's Premier Tax Authority, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. A delegation from the OECD met with Nigerian representatives on the 4th and 5th of April 2023 at a workshop jointly organized by the OECD and the FRS to discuss the maximization of the benefits of the two-pillar solution for Nigeria. The workshop's outcome statement, released on Thursday, the 13th of April, was signed by the Executive Chairman of the FRS, Mr. Mohammed Nami, and the OECD representative, Mr. Ben Dickinson. The two-pillar solution, a proposal by the OECD Inclusive Framework, is a set of proposed rules endorsed by 138 countries across the world as a uniform solution to the tax challenges of the digitalized economy, as well as base erosion and profit shifting. Nigeria, one of the 4 members of the Inclusive Framework that did not endorse the set of rules, met with the OECD delegation on April 4th and 5th to familiarize relevant government officials with the rules, Nigeria's position, as well as the potential benefits of the two-pillar solution to the country and the world in general. After a critical review of the rules and Nigeria's participation in their development, stakeholders at the meeting resolved that there was the need for Nigeria's continued participation in the development of the rules as a member of the Inclusive Framework to ensure that the interest of the country and Africa is factored into the design and development of the rules. The outcome statement noted that whether or not Nigeria endorsed the statement of October 2021 and the detailed rules to be released later to address challenges arising from the digitalization of the economy, the country's tax base and fiscal policy options will be impacted by the implementation of the two-pillar solution, especially the Pillar 2 global minimum tax rules of 15% effective tax rate, otherwise known as the GLOBE rules. The meeting consequently observed that there was a need for Nigeria to immediately implement fiscal policy measures to address these potential impacts. We recall that the Executive Chairman of the FRS had, in a statement in May 2022, noted that the country had concerns over the impact the rules could have on Nigeria's tax system and revenue generation. The rules in question relate to the areas of minimum annual global turnover of 20 billion euros and a global profitability of 10% before an MNE could be subject to tax in Nigeria, especially as these conditions relate to 4 consecutive years rather than 1 accounting year, as well as the fact that for Nigeria to subject a multinational enterprise to tax under the rule, the entity must have generated at least 1 billion euros turnover from Nigeria within a year. The Executive Chairman had also stated then, on behalf of Nigeria, reservation on the issue of dispute resolutions under the two-pillar solution, which stipulates that in the event of a dispute between Nigeria and a multinational enterprise, Nigeria would be subject to an international arbitration panel as against Nigeria's own judicial system. Tax Matters will stay on this matter and keep our viewers posted. We thank you for spending time with us on this episode as we remind you that the 25th Annual Tax Conference of the CITN holds in Abuja from Monday the 8th to Friday the 12th of May 2023. It promises to be very educative and interactive. Are you ready? We are ready. Thank you once again. Let's do this again next week, same station, same day of the week and same time of the day. Bye for now.